Our goal is your satisfaction. Let us show you the way.
Is 3 coats of paint too much? Choose the right number of coats for your painting project. Before you think the answer is as simple as 1, 2, or 3, we should say that every project, color, and surface is a little different and has unique requirements. 3 coats in this last scenario. 3 coats would actually be the absolute minimum number needed. Why does my white paint look patchy? Patchiness usually happens if you don't use enough paint, or apply it unevenly. Using a touch more paint, and painting in small sections one at a time, usually does the trick. Also, rolling in a grid fashion will get you an even finish too. But, sometimes, changes in the gloss level leave things patchy. How many coats of paint can a wall take? 2 coats. Generally, you will want a minimum of 2 coats of paint. This is a good rule of thumb for any wall or ceiling you're painting. You'll rarely get a seamless finish from just 1 coat of paint, and even if you do, coverage isn't the only goal when it comes to painting a room. How long does it take to paint a room? Painters spend 2 to 4 days painting an average-sized room. That's how long it takes to prep, prime, and paint correctly. It's more work, but when you stand back to admire the results, you'll agree it's time well spent. How often should you change paint roller? A quality roller should last up to 5 cycles before shedding. You can reuse it without affecting the quality of the paint application, and over time it will end up paying for itself. Reuse your rollers with these 3 simple steps. Scrape the roller after use but do not let it dry out. How many layers of paint do I need for furniture? Let it dry. If a second coat is needed, and I usually advise at least 2 coats for normal furniture and 3 coats for high traffic or areas around water, you will want to sand, vacuum and tack cloth the piece between coats. This will ensure a super smooth finish. Should you sand between coats of paint? Sand with fine sandpaper between coats after they dry. Make sure you remove sanding residue before applying additional coats. I recommend 3 thin coats of paint, but it all depends on the color and consistency. Remove sanding residue with a soft bristled brush attachment on a vacuum. Is it better to use primer or 2 coats of paint? As long as the primer applies uniformly over the previous color, then 1 or 2 coats should be sufficient. Again, it is not necessary to apply several coats of primer to try to get a perfect white finish. That is the job of the top coat, paint, which has to be applied on top of the primer. What does a second coat of paint do? The second coat provides a type of seal and barrier, which makes it easier to wipe and clean. Durability is also better with 2 coats of paint. Bumps and nicks tend not to penetrate through both layers of paint, which makes touch-ups less frequent and saves money long-term. Do you need to cut in on the second coat of paint? When it comes to applying the second coat, you must keep track of where you've painted because it's the same process you used for the first coat. You should start at the top corner of the wall with an angled brush and cut in along the trim in the edges. How many gallons of paint do I need? 1 gallon can of paint will cover up to 400 square feet, which is enough to cover a small room like a bathroom. 2-gallon cans of paint cover up to 800 square feet, which is enough to cover an average size room. This is the most common amount needed, especially when considering second coat coverage. Does the second coat use less paint? The second coat of paint goes on quickly and costs very little. The first coat goes on thicker and slower. The second coat of paint serves as a second skin or protector of the first coat, adding life to your paint job. You can expect some surfaces to last twice as long with a second coat. Is one coat of exterior paint enough? The general rule is that you should use 2 coats of paint. However, this rule changes based on the color, quality of the paint you use, whether or not you used primer, and the type of surface you're painting.
Take our lead. Let's help you make your mark.